This week, your student came home with one of our STEM Fair packets, which looks like what you see on your screen now. And we just wanted to give parents a little background into what we're doing in class so that this doesn't become a stressful time for you or your student. So we're going to go ahead and look at just the pages that were assigned for this week. So the students are supposed to be completing this week pages 4 through 7. Page 4 is just a research plan. This explains what the student's name is, their address, those kinds of things. Also what kind of experiment they want to be doing. And that is explained more on page 5, the types of experiments. This also needs a parent-guardian approval because we need to know that you're okay with them doing this experiment at home. Page 5 goes into the types of experiments, but it also talks about the question or problem the students are going to solve. In the past, it has strictly been a science fair and we did an experiment. This year we are doing an experiment or a problem to solve, and that's explained right here. And these symbols you'll actually see throughout the book as we continue going through. The students are also going to write their question here that they want to answer or the problem they're going to solve. And then we're going to move on to pages 6 and 7, which is something new this year. So we really want parents to know about this. The top part explains the resources they use for research. That one has been there in the past. But then when we get down to this bottom, this is something brand new this year. We've noticed over the past few years that variables is very difficult for students to understand. They don't understand what is their dependent, what is their independent, and what are their constants. So we're using a new technique with sticky notes to help us identify those a little bit easier. So what the students are asked to do is to choose 4 things that they could change or vary, or 4 solutions they have if they're doing an engineering process. We're going to focus today on one that's a scientific process. We're going to focus on an experiment, and our experiment's actually going to be how to grow a better lima bean. So we're going to think about 4 things here that we could use to grow a better lima bean. We're going to use one color sticky note, so we're going to use orange today. And we're going to put 4 sticky notes right across the top line here. On those 4 sticky notes, I'm going to think about what it is that I could change to make a lima bean grow better. So, one of my examples could be soil. I could change the soil and see how it impacts. I could change the water. I could change the temperature that the plants are exposed to. And I could change the amount of sunlight they receive. So those are all things I could change, but not necessarily what I'm going to change. The next part we want to look at is things we could measure. So we're going to use a different color sticky note. Today we're going to use pink for this part, and we're going to look at what we could measure to see if our plant is actually growing better. So one of the things we could look at, is height. We could look at the number of leaves. We could look at the number of lima beans, or we could look at the time it takes to grow. So now that I've got all of that on page 6, I'm going to move on to page 7. Page 7 asks the students to choose one of each of those categories. This is going to become their independent and their dependent variable. So from the first category, I'm going to go ahead and choose soil. So I'm going to place that sticky note right here. I will change the soil, and that becomes my independent variable. Then I'm going to look for one of my pink sticky notes. So in this case, I'm going to look at the number of beans. So I'll measure or observe the number of beans, which becomes my dependent variable. Then underneath this, it asks for you to put all the remaining ones. So on my first row here, I'm going to put my extra orange sticky notes. And what this says is I will not change, or I will keep the same, these 3 things. Because if a student has too many variables, we're not really sure what's affecting their experiment. So we know we will change. This becomes our independent. These 3 then become our constants because they stay the same throughout the experiment. It then asks us to use our extra pink ones, and we're going to put those down here saying we will not measure these. For this, the reason we're doing this is so that they don't have too many data tables, too many points of information. We really want to focus on one area of information, so in this case, our number of beans. moving from the top, we've now identified what we're changing, what's going to happen based on that change, and what we're keeping the same. Moving on, we have a spot that says when I change. We're going to pull our sticky note from up top and just move it here. So when I change the soil, what happens to the number of beans? Using these sticky notes, the students can keep it organized, what their variables are and what they're measuring throughout the rest of the lesson. And then they're going to go ahead and write their question or problem at the end of this page here.